Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Wednesday morning, February the 5th. A lot to talk about this morning. Man, if you like winter storms, these next couple of weeks will be about as good as it gets, with multiple storm threats for the Mid-Atlantic region and the Northeast U.S. That begins later on tonight into the early morning hours on Thursday, where it certainly can be an icy mess for places like the D.C. metro region, the Philadelphia metro region. I think this will be mainly a snow event in the overnight hours up across New York City, so less on the ice side for New York City, more on the snow side in all areas, from New York down to Philadelphia, down to D.C. The Thursday morning commute can certainly be quite slippery indeed. And it looks like a repeat performance, kind of a similar weather scenario setting up for Saturday and Saturday night in the Mid-Atlantic region, with mixed precipitation, anywhere from snow to sleet to freezing rain to rain, and probably all of the above. And then likely an accumulating snow threat for much of the Mid-Atlantic region during the early to middle part of next week. We'll have to take each one of these storm systems on an individual basis, because there will be a battle setting up between the old southeastern U.S. ridge that tends to form during La Nina winters. That will be rearing its ugly head over the next couple of weeks, and at times some warmer air will push up into the southern Mid-Atlantic region, and it will be set up a battle zone between snow to the north and sleet, freezing rain down to the south. So again, we'll have to take each storm on an individual basis. This is the forecast map for tonight's system into tomorrow morning by the Canadian model in terms of total freezing rain amounts. Now, by freezing rain, let's just be clear here, that is actually liquid rain, liquid water that falls and then freezes on the surface because of below freezing temperatures at the ground levels. And in fact, this is the setup, especially across the D.C. metro region, all across the western Virginia suburbs, in fact, all the way out to West Virginia. An ice storm is on the table here, with a lot of liquid precipitation falling that will freeze on the surfaces, the untreated surface, later on tonight into tomorrow morning. And that ice storm threat extends all the way up into southeastern PA, as seen here. Again, these are basically what you're looking at is the ice buildup here on tree limbs, for example, and untreated road surfaces. Most severe down across the area, across the D.C. metro region and west of there into those normally colder Virginia suburbs of D.C. and farther to the west into the Panhandle region of West Virginia. And again, there can be an icy buildup of significance all the way up into the southern part of Pennsylvania, down up here over New York City. Mainly a snow event, so less on the freezing rain side of things by tomorrow morning, tomorrow midday or so. Again, mainly snow and then sleet probably up across the New York City metro region. But certainly an icy mess for later tonight into tomorrow morning, especially icy D.C., Philadelphia. Now let's shift here to snow. This is for the next several days, really goes through the end of next week. This is from an ensemble run of the GFS from last night's Zero-Z ensemble run of the GFS of total snowfall by the end of next week. So it includes what I believe will be an accumulating snow threat early to middle part of next week. And this is just quite impressive indeed for an ensemble run to have these kind of snow totals. And again, this includes not only tonight's system, not only the weekend system, but more importantly, on an accumulating snow basis, the early to middle week threat of next week. Could even be another threat towards the end of next week, but just wanted to point out, don't focus in on the exact numbers here, but this is quite a strong signal for accumulating snow when you see an ensemble run put out numbers like this. Again, this goes through the latter part of next week. Now let's go through some of the details across the continental U.S. here. That is the ensemble run of the European model from last night, and I wanted to first start off with the 500 millibar height anomaly patterns. These are rolling 5-day averages going forward. This is the current 5-day period, a strong upper level ridge centered over the Tennessee Valley. Now this is in the middle part of the atmosphere, that 500 millibar layer right smack in the middle part of the atmosphere. I just want to kind of quickly go through this and show what happens here as we move forward. This is now well into next week, and notice this, what I typically refer to as that southeastern U.S. ridge, kind of hanging on down here across the southeastern states. This is important for several reasons. First of all, any kind of a surface high pressure area down in this area helps to pump up some warmer, more humid air from the Gulf into the south central states, the lower Mississippi Valley. That can promote some severe weather this time of the year, especially as we move through the latter stages of February, and certainly into March. And certainly it can also contribute to some warmer air moving into the Mid-Atlantic region during any one of these winter storms that are coming up over the next couple of weeks, especially the southern Mid-Atlantic. This can have an effect here. So it's something we want to monitor over the next several days here. As we go forward, it tends to diminish in its significance. Here is all the way out now to the middle part of February. You notice it tends to shrink in size, and that will be a diminishing of its importance as we get to the middle of the month, when colder air will tend to penetrate farther and farther to the south. Something we'll keep an eye on over the next couple of weeks. Now, I wanted to walk through the surface maps kind of quickly here from last night's 0Z run of the GFS, and then we'll focus in on tonight's threat by looking at some soundings again, specifically with respect to the D.C. and Philly metro regions in terms of the ice storm possibilities for later tonight into early tomorrow. Here we stand on Wednesday morning. I've talked about this, the fact that we have strong high pressure showing up over New England. That tends to anchor in a cold air mass. We had a cold frontal passage during the morning hours on Thursday across the Mid-Atlantic region. The colder, drier air really became noticeable in the overnight hours. Strong northwest winds pushed in that colder, drier, dense air, and that's what is residing this morning all across the northeastern states, anchored by this high pressure system. And that will help to set the stage for this frozen precipitation event later on tonight into tomorrow morning. Here we are in the 7 p.m. forecast map. That high pressure sitting over New England, and cold enough for some frozen precipitation all the way down to the D.C. metro region here. And in the overnight hours, we have that sleet, freezing rain setting up here across the D.C. metro region. Hangs on as snow for a while across Philadelphia, most of the night as snow in the New York City metro region. And again, we'll focus in on some atmospheric soundings in a moment to kind of fine-tune the forecast for the I-95 corridor region of the Mid-Atlantic here in the overnight hours. Go forward a little bit more in time, and just lots of colors on the map here by early tomorrow morning. And colors this time of the year is not a good thing to see, because that indicates sleet and freezing rain. Indeed, we'll have kind of an icy buildup across the D.C. metro region, areas to the west and north of there, all the way up to the Pennsylvania-Maryland border. Maybe an icy buildup across parts of southern Pennsylvania as well. Then as you get farther to the north and east, mainly a snow event, places like northeastern PA, northern New Jersey, interior higher elevation locations of northern New Jersey. New York City, mainly a snow event with some sleet mixed in the overnight hours. And then that tends to move away, wind down by midday, perhaps as plain rain. D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, it certainly will be a struggle to get above freezing tomorrow morning, especially across the northern and western suburbs of Philly, and even some of those northern and western suburbs of D.C. It will be at or slightly below freezing 6, 7, 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Hence, expect slippery road conditions all the way from D.C. to Philly to New York City. That passes on by. Then we have another cold frontal system that moves on through, and here it is by the time we get to Friday morning, all the way down across the Carolinas by that time, and you have another influx of fresh, cold, dry, dense air by the time we get to the latter part of the work week and into the upcoming early part of the upcoming weekend, setting the stage for yet another precipitation event that will include snow, sleet, freezing rain in this same area of the Mid-Atlantic region from D.C. to Philly to New York City. This is Saturday into Saturday night, it looks like that will be the main activity time here, and then it winds down perhaps as plain rain early on Sunday in the big cities, snow up across New England and New York State by early Sunday morning, and then it gets out of here by midday, afternoon hours on Sunday, which happens to be Super Bowl Sunday, so that's good news for any travel plans on Sunday afternoon into the evening in the Mid-Atlantic region. It gets on out of here. Now, the real threat for accumulating snow, I believe, comes early to middle part of next week, and the difference with these systems coming next week, they'll take more of a southern route, a southern path. Tonight's system, the weekend system, certainly have some low pressure moving up to the north and west, even though there may be a reflection of low pressure off the Mid-Atlantic coastline. But these next weekend, I say these because there may be more than one right here. Notice more of a southern and eastern route here. And again, accumulating snow is certainly a threat in the early to middle part of next week. We'll have to focus in on that over the next several days here. But first we have to get through tonight's system and the weekend system. It could even be another threat late next week in the eastern states here, another winter storm threat. Now, we walked through some atmospheric soundings yesterday's video, and I'd like to do that again. These are useful tools whenever you're dealing with an ice situation, a sleet, a freezing rain situation. They're also, of course, useful tools at other times of the year, for example, for tracking the possibility of severe thunderstorm activity. This is the forecast map from the 0Z GFS for 1 a.m. right after midnight later on tonight, and we'll get an atmospheric sounding here from the DC metro region right here. And again, this is a 1 a.m. atmospheric sounding. Let me first kind of outline what we're looking at here. This dash line right here represents the freezing line. This is the 32 degree Fahrenheit line here. And we're looking at a red line that extends from the ground level all the way up through the atmosphere. And the green represents the moisture or the humidity level here. So what I wanted to point out is this area right in here. We see a thin layer of air that's above freezing, about 5, 6, 7, 8,000 feet off the surface. This is the reason why this will not be an all snow event in the DC metro region. Again, this is about 1 a.m. This is a kind of a sounding profile that suggests sleet, freezing rain. But notice surface temperature right here. This is the ground level. This is all the ground level right down here, below freezing at this particular time. So this is saying there could be sleet, freezing rain, if there is in fact freezing rain, which is liquid rain that falls through the sky but then freezes on the surfaces, especially the untreated surfaces such as tree limbs, because of below freezing temperatures at the surface. So you're seeing this thin layer, always tough to forecast because all it takes is a thin layer of above freezing air to cause snow to change to sleet and then to freezing rain. And the thicker this layer of above freezing temperatures, the more the chance that it will produce liquid rainfall rather than sleet here. So it's not only tracking the temperatures here, it's the thickness of that layer with the above freezing temperatures. Now, let's take a look at a sounding from southeastern Pennsylvania at the same time. This is 1 a.m. Click here, and here we go with this atmospheric sounding. And again, notice this is the freezing line right here. Anything past this dashed line right here represents above freezing temperatures. So let me clear that. Notice this layer here does not quite have above freezing temperatures, so this is suggesting to me at 1 a.m. it'll be in the form of snow across the southeastern part of Pennsylvania, and the ground temperature also below freezing here. So we're looking at snow at least for a couple of hours after midnight. Then I believe this becomes sleet, freezing rain in southeastern PA towards daybreak. Let's move ahead in time here. Okay, now we're going to 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. Let's do the same sort of thing here. We're looking at the sounding here in the DC metro region. Still seeing that thin layer of above freezing air here. Again, we're talking 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,000 feet above the surface. But notice here, the surface temperature still at freezing at 7 a.m. This is suggesting that there still will be some freezing on the untreated surfaces early tomorrow morning in the DC metro region, even if liquid rain is falling at this time with temperatures at the surface at or below freezing. You still can have some ice buildup here, especially on tree limbs, for example, and expect to see slippery road conditions for the Thursday morning commute. Now, up across southeastern PA at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, we do have that thin layer of air above freezing at that time. So I do expect to see sleet and even freezing rain late tonight, early tomorrow morning in the southeastern part of Pennsylvania. But notice here, 29 degrees below freezing temperatures at the surface level. So expect to see some ice buildup on untreated surfaces early tomorrow across the Philadelphia metro region, southeastern part of PA. The bottom line, it looks like a slippery commute all the way from New York City down to Philadelphia to Washington, D.C. early tomorrow. So watch out for those slippery spots. And a similar scenario developing for Saturday and Saturday night with the likelihood for snow, sleet, freezing rain, rain in the mid-Atlantic region. And then as the next few days progress, we'll focus in more and more on that accumulating snow threat for the early to middle part of next week. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.